In the summer of 2016, we toured a beautiful country which boasts some stunning scenery, is filled with fascinating people, and has been left with remnants of a turbulent history. Our aim for this project was to explore some of the ruins from Poland's more distant past.
So Poland is not particularly famous for its ancient sites, but behind me here is its most famous. It's called Odry. It's a collection of about 10 stone circles. People come here, as did the Nazis. The Nazis used to like this place because they thought it had magical powers and certain energies. And people in modern times, all the Polish, come here to wander around, absorb the energy, and they come here, like with Stonehenge, you know, they come here on the solstices as well. So we're going to have a little explore. So this is where we are in Poland. This is Odry. This is the site we're at now, and you can see Gdansk here, so if you want to find it on a map. These red dots show the megalithic or ancient sites that are still intact and you can visit. The yellow dots, of which there are 10, are sites that used to exist but they've been destroyed by farmers and certain people over the years. So as I said, those yellow dots have been destroyed by farmers over the years, and the red ones that are remaining are basically in the woodlands. I guess they didn't need to destroy it because they didn't need the land. This is the first of 10 stone circles. It's about 30 meters across. There's 14 or 15 stones now. It's a beautiful place, but we're gonna keep going and see a few more. So this is stone circle number 4. There are 10 on this site, or 10 and a half, because there's a kind of incomplete one. Numbers 5, 6, and 7 run off in that direction. And then behind me over here, you can see is number 3 and then number 8. So all 10 are within a kind of a couple of 100 square meters basically. And you've got all of these little burial mounds as well, decorated amongst all of these stone circles. Compared to a lot of the circles I've seen and the megalithic sites I've seen in the UK and other sites around the world, these are pretty small boulders, but they're also made from the same kind of granite type stone that seems to have a lot of quartz in as well. So this circle here is very well complete. The first circle we came to, which is pretty important for alignments in this area, it wasn't very complete at all. It had only 14 stones and there probably was originally about 35. Okay, so this site is pretty interesting in terms of stellar alignments. This guy up here called Stefana in 1915 did all sorts of measurements in this area. And he's come up with the idea that not only do stones within the circles, like in places such as Stonehenge, you know, the sun and the moons and everything aligns at certain solstices. Well, that happens here as well, but also the circles align. So the first, second and third circles, they form a line that points towards the sunrise in the winter solstice. And then the fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh circles form a line which points towards the sun in the summer solstice. And then interestingly enough, the 8th, 9th and 10th, as well as the first circle, also form a line which was pointing towards a star called Capella. I've never heard of it before, but apparently it was a star that was really bright when in Neolithic times when these circles were supposed to have been built. So this is the 5th stone circle. Again, similar number of stones, about 30, 35, small ones as well. There's one interesting thing that we've been reading on these signs that they've got around here is to do with the moss. They have about 85 different species growing on the stones here, and about 70 of those are only supposed to grow in the mountains in higher conditions and wetter and colder climates. So this ties in with some of the other videos we've done about how vegetation seems to flourish in these stone circles. You know, we've had trees in southern Africa next to the stone circles and within the stone circles that were really flourishing, and also trees in Jordan and Israel that were coming out of the dolmen and things like this. So it ties in with John Burke's work to do with megaliths enhancing and helping the development of these seeds. This circle is supposed to be the healing circle, or have the most healing energy. There's supposed to be a blue aura around it. As we've been talking to lots of the locals, this is really popular with the Polish people, these sites. There's tons of people walking around and they're all into different ideas. They seem to be quite awake compared to the populations of countries I've been to so far. We were just talking to a couple who believe that they were from Atlantis. They told us all sorts of far out things, really. They believe that there's tunnels of reptilians underneath here. They were talking about crystals and how these crystals were used to kind of power up these stone circles, and they were used as teleporters. Okay, so we're in the center of the stone circle number 7. These are the center stones, which you can see basically point off back towards 6, 5 and 4. So this is the line of the summer solstice. This is stone circle 6 here, as you can see. We were just talking with 2 of our friends that we've met here, and we've been activating crystals and things like that, which is a long story, and one that you'd have to email me about, basically. So these 2 stones here, which I said are in the center of stone circle 7, have one has a positive and one has a negative polarity. The woman had this, like, the spinning thing that shows the direction of the energies, and the 2 stones right on this side of stone circle 6 are the opposite way around. So if this one's positive, then that one on that side is positive, and they're kind of crisscrossing over. So fascinating stuff.
Most of the energy-related stories from visitors are associated with the circles along the summer solstice line. There are even stories of people feeling so much energy they briefly lose consciousness. We walk back through the area with circles 2 and 3, as well as many of the 30 burial mounds and 620 flat graves left behind by the Goths during the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. Then we continue past circles 8, 9 and 10, which are supposed to be 2,000 or 3,000 years older.
So this is a little area just off from the stone circle complex. It's called the ellipsa, or the ellipse. This sign here is describing how there is cosmic and earth energies in this area. It's describing here as well how people have come with headaches and certain, problems with their bodies, and after spending some time here, they've healed. The 120,000 is describing how much energy is being given off in this area. It's on the Bovis scale, and the 50,000 figure here is what they consider to be godly. To put that all into perspective, it says just on this little bit down here that the average person is giving off 6,500 units on the Bovis scale. The scale only goes from 0 to 10,000, so it being 120,000 is like way off the charts, and explains why 50,000 to them is considered so godly. And I find this also interesting because you don't get signs or information talking about cosmic energies when you go to places like Stonehenge. The Polish seem much more open-minded and prepared to talk about more esoteric topics, so this could be an interesting trip.
We were running out of daylight, so found somewhere nearby to camp, as our next site was only 30 kilometers away, and we wanted to visit in the morning.
Okay, so we've come to Leszno, which is about a 20-minute drive from Odry. This is an area full of burial mounds. You can see this one behind me would have been one of the ones that was family size, obviously not the smaller individual ones. This has been used by all sorts of civilizations over the years. The Romans and people living here in the Bronze Ages have adapted it and reused the stone. So there's different areas around here that have been used at different ages. They've got all sorts of signs up showing the pottery and the ceramics that they've discovered in this area. These stones and all of these stone circles have a high concentration of quartz crystals, or crystals at least. I'm not sure exactly if they are quartz, but usually they are. And this one here is really interesting stone because you can see the lines of the quartz in there. I've talked before in other videos about the piezoelectric effect of the crystals and how this is probably used for using somehow the ley line and the telluric energies. We use them in modern day times. Quartz is used in microchips and in watches, because of the piezoelectric effect, where if you put it under pressure, it releases electrons, basically. So this is a really interesting stone, and I'm sure it's been put here for a reason. As I said, this is reconstructed, but most of these stones are actually the originals. It's just been kind of, made to look like how they would have done.
The remains of a female were found inside that mound, and she was left with enough grave goods to warrant the name the Princess Grave. From there we walked through the forest, showing approximately 10 round barrows and an estimated 50 flat graves, and we also found some reconstructed stone cists, small stone-built coffin-like structures used to hold the bodies of the dead. From Leszno we went to another of the major significant sites in the area, Babi Dol, also known as the Wedding Circle due to a legend saying some late wedding guests were turned to stone by angry and offended chefs. This site was nowhere near as impressive as Odry, although there could be more to discover as relatively little investigation has been done since they started in 1978. There were 5 big mounds with stones around the base, 60 flat graves scattered all over the site, and 3 stone circles. We didn't do all that much filming as there wasn't much to see and the weather was pretty dismal, but we spent much more time at the site of Wesiory, another large set of stone circles hiding in the forest 38 kilometers away. At this site there are 9 circles, 19 mounds and 110 flat graves, although only 4 of the circles are in a good enough condition that you can recognise them today. The biggest circle is 26 meters in diameter, and like in Odry, the circles had additional stone pillars in the centre of the circles. The burial mounds vary from 4 to 6 meters with 1 to 3 bodies inside. Some are covered with small stones while others have boulders on top. Artefacts and skeletal remains found around the mounds have been dated to between the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, but you can read on the informative signs that due to the age of the growth of lichen on some of the stones, the circles might be thousands of years older. The Association for the Study of Polish Stone Circles says the layout of the circles is a reflection of the galaxy M45, also known as the Pleiades. On one of the signs there is information about the healing circle and the way you should enter in order to absorb the most amount of energy. For example, it is better to remove your shoes and lay down on your stomach facing north. Structurally speaking, the circle is like no other I have seen. It is made from small stones and is built like a circle within a circle. It seems to work though, as many people claim to have experienced healing. The megalithic stones are covered in crystals, and while touching a couple of them I could feel energy passing from the rock into my hands. I was also joined by a butterfly that seemed to be charging its batteries. Stone circles are not the only type of megalithic structure discovered in the north of Poland. About a 45-minute drive from Koszalin, there is a site hiding in the forest.
Okay, so we've come about 30 kilometers from Grzybnica to another megalithic site. This is called the megalithic cemetery. Now there are 4 dolmen structures and a tumulus, which you can see just over here. 3 of the dolmen are actually destroyed. They just look like piles of stones, basically. This is the most complete of them. It's not like many of the dolmen I've seen in different places around the world. This one is like the ones in Holland and in Germany, made of sort of like bigger, rounder stones. This one's got the 4 capstones and then probably about 10 orthostats around. It also seems to be part of a bigger structure as well. You can see these stones here and there are more scattered around, which seem to be around the outside of what looks like a mound or another kind of tumulus, because you can see these smaller blocks here. You know, these dolmen structures are found all around the world, you know, in places such as Korea and the Middle East and even in the United States and in Canada. And the local people seem to adopt different ways of building a structure with the same kind of theme, you know, uprights and then capstones across the top of it. In this direction, as I said, there is one long barrow or tumulus. It's only about 40 meters long, so it's nothing like some of the larger ones you get in the UK. You can see how it's defined by these stones here. There is a long line of stones, which is one side, and then over on this side there's another long line of stones. So as I said, it's about 40 meters in length, and it's really not very high. It's quite hard to see it, really. So if you're trying to find this site, it's pretty difficult from the road. This dolmen that's complete looks just like a pile of stones, really, so much so that we drove straight past it. It's the only dolmen in Poland, whereas with these long barrows there are more of them and larger ones as well that are found in other parts of the country. So we've come to an area in the centre of Poland to visit some sites that they call the Polish pyramids. Now with this one behind me you can see there's a slight pyramid shape to it, but that's only if you're looking from the front. If you look at the side view, like the first one over here, which is obviously nothing like a pyramid, it's a long, elongated triangle. This one is 76 meters in length. This one is 97, I think it was, and then you've got another one that's 116 and a couple of smaller ones just over the other side of the largest one here. It's not just the shape that causes them to connect to Egypt, it's also because they have found skeletons here, and each of those skeletons had grave goods like ceramics, and they think that was kind of like offerings for the next life. So it's nothing like the pharaohs, but there's a slight connection there, so they call them pyramids. For me, they're long barrows. We have these in the UK. There's similarities to them. I mean, the ones in the UK have massive megalithic blocks. The ones I visited, like West Kennet, for example, you can go right inside them and they have different chambers. Whereas these have basically there's a small boulders. These would be under a ton. They think that there was a central chamber here and then 2 bodies the other side of that chamber. The stones go all the way around the outside. It's like a frame forming the shape, and then you've got like lots of soil around them. So as I said, here there are 5 different pyramids or long barrows, the largest being 113 meters and the shortest one is 47. But there are other communities or other collections of long barrows in this area.
We visited one of the other nearby collections of barrows with 9 structures between 50 and 80 metres long, each with between 1 to 5 bodies inside, and some with grave goods. These barrows had small dry stone walls at the front and back, but an absence of stones in the central section, although they have been reconstructed, so it is difficult to know if this is what they would have looked like. At all of the sites we had visited so far, earth energies have been mentioned, so we decided to visit some of the better known areas where they also talk about such things.
Okay, so we've come to an area in Gdynia, which is one of the tri-cities. There's 3 cities on the coast, Gdansk being the most famous. This is called Holy Hill, and that's due to all sorts of legends associated with the place. One in particular interests us because there was supposed to have been a stream and a well where the water had healing properties. There's a story of a blind horse that came here and regained its sight. The pagans were supposed to have done some rituals here, but now it's just been kind of taken over by Christianity. You can see, there's a little chapel at the top here, there's another little monument over here. The reason we've come to this site is because it's not just at these stone circles and at these megalithic sites that you feel energy coming from the ground. This is supposed to be an area where there are 3 ley lines crossing over, and we've been here for about half an hour just feeling the energies. And on top of this hill behind me, behind this little chapel, I was there holding the ground and feeling tingling in my fingers, and I was feeling warmth in my root chakra. And as I hold the ground now, straight away it kind of starts to tingle, which suggests again like there's ley line or telluric energies coming from the ground, and I'm not exactly sure what this energy would be, but it feels nice. It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable, and it grows with time as well. When I first put my hand on there, it tingles a little bit, and then the tingling starts to kind of go up my arms. And there's websites of people talking about all sorts of different energies they've felt here. There's some quite interesting photos that some people have taken with some massive yellow wave-like energy forms going across the photos. So it's a fascinating place for me because I've been to certain stone circles and felt energies within the stones, but I've never really been to that many places where it just kind of seems to be coming out of the ground in the middle of nowhere. So this is not uncommon in Poland. In fact, this is common in Poland. There are quite a few of these kind of sacred sites or centres where energy is being emitted through the ground, and there's some quite famous ones as well.
We left the north of Poland and went on a sacred sites tour of the country. The Wawel Chakra in Krakow is believed to be one of the world's most powerful spiritual energy centres. A number of books have been written about the energy emanating from under the 11th century chapel in the northwest corner of the courtyard, which has annoyingly been closed to the general public. The church refuses to accept evidence of any extraordinary phenomena at the site, dismissing the idea as an urban legend, but when we were there we saw plenty of people meditating and touching the wall to feel the energy. According to legend, a dragon lived in the cave under Wawel, and Eastern traditions say dragons were great guards of earthly power places. And an old Hindu legend tells how Shiva threw 7 stones in different directions, and they flew as far as Rome, Mecca, Machu Picchu and Wawel. Geomancers, dowsers and psychics have no doubt about the power of the place. One famous dowser states there are both cosmic and terrestrial energies measuring up to 120,000 on the Bovis scale. It is believed that the Wawel chakra's main purpose is to absorb and cleanse negative energy, so this might explain why Krakow sustained no damage during the Second World War. As many as 7 ley lines link Wawel to other sacred sites, including Stonehenge, Rome and Jerusalem. And it's the Jerusalem ley line that connects Wawel to the next site we visited, Częstochowa, a city 70 kilometers north of one of the country's most significant places of pilgrimage. Thousands and thousands of people walk from all over Poland to visit the Black Madonna, the Polish shrine to the Virgin Mary which is housed in the infamous Jasna Góra monastery. The painting is said to have miraculous powers, with countless stories and legends from over the years. It is credited for defending the city from attack on numerous occasions, despite the odds being severely stacked against them. The 17th century repelling of the Swedes is still to this day regarded as one of the greatest miracles in the history of the country. Inside the monastery there are walls full of crutches from people who have been healed, and you can find some amazing stories online, such as the woman deeply suffering from multiple sclerosis with little time left to live, who recovered after her husband went on the pilgrimage. It is thought before the church there was a pagan temple, and for centuries kings came to Częstochowa to pray before making important decisions, so it's possibly energies running through the ground that have caused the large number of stories from over the years. The Wisła River narrows near Krakow, and some suggest it is the narrowing that causes the emission of high levels of energy, And the river also narrows in Kazimierz Dolny, where there are 3 crosses on top of the hill overlooking town. They were put there to remember the victims of cholera, although the records show there might have been crosses before these ones. We went to the area because we heard of the positive energy, and although we felt good sat behind the crosses, it wasn't as strong as in Wawel, so we decided to go to another huge hill known for its energies.
Okay, so we're on Mount Sleza, and this place has all sorts of myths and legends associated with it, one being a UFO is under the mountain. There's pagan rituals been associated with this place. We've stopped at an ancient occult site, and we're really noticing a lot of energy coming out of this area. My hands now are really tingling. I can feel energy going up my arms, and this is probably one of the most powerful experiences in terms of sensing energy that I've had. I've felt it before at stone circles, but never as strongly as this. We've been to the top, and there is a church on top. There's an old pagan, they call it a bear, but it kind of looks like a pig really, but it's an ancient stone. There's lots of writing up there and information, and they talk about how groups of people come here because of the positive energy, and I think this is probably what I'm sensing right now.
Close to the border with Russia, we found a more recent historical monument in Rapa, a 10-metre tall tomb in the shape of a pyramid built by an art collector in the 19th century to place the bodies of his family. It is linked by another ley line to Wolf's Lair, the site of one of Hitler's secret bunkers, and it is also supposed to be on the same ley line as the Giza Plateau.
So we've seen all sorts of sacred sites or energy centres around Poland, and we're visiting one that's just across the border in Lithuania now. Behind me you can see the pyramid of Merkine, which is the inspiration and the creation of a Lithuanian guy. I think he's Lithuanian anyway. You can actually probably see him inside. He's walking around and singing, which sounds like a prayer to me. But when he was 9 years old, he got messages from a guardian angel. And then he didn't really receive anything for 10 years, and then in 2002 was given the message to build a pyramid. So he built this 3-sided metallic pyramid in this area. In 2009 he was then instructed or given the message from his guardian angel to build the dome over the top. And this is supposed to keep the energy within and protect from the weather and all this kind of thing. As I said, thousands of people come here. We were here on the weekend and it was packed. And many talk about feeling healing properties of the energy coming from this area. So you've got people talking about having their blood pressures reduced, their chronic pain has gone away. There's a list of things that people have talked about to do with internal organs getting better. People also comment on their mental health being improved and relationships getting better, and people even visualize the pyramid and then do work on it through meditation when they get home. So the energy coming from this place seems pretty significant, especially to other people. Out of all of the places we visited, Mount Sleza and Wawel were the most significant for me. Like, I could actually feel tingling in certain parts of my body, and I do feel the same here, just not quite as strong. So I stood inside the pyramid and I could feel sort of tingling within my arms and my fingers, which is my most sensitive area. But it wasn't as powerful, as I said, as Mount Sleza or Wawel, but there's definitely something here.
We crossed another border into Latvia to visit the Pokaini forests, a place full of myths, superstition and mysterious events, with stories about strange lights and supernatural forces, and many spiritual healers consider this forest to be an ancient holy site or healing centre. There are collections of ancient rocks, large and small, assembled around 30 hills in a particular sequence, but archaeologists failed to find any evidence of burials, so the boulders must have been placed there for some other reason. A scientist from Riga visited in 1996 and noted how the rocks seemed to emit strange and powerful energies. Sadly, he died shortly after due to an unknown disease. The official leaflet states the megalithic stones are used like acupuncture needles to stimulate the flow of living energies, including assisting conduction along ley lines and the receiving of cosmic radiation. It states the rocks contain quartz and mica crystals, which are forms of life that can generate energy and transmit and strengthen various kinds of vibration. And it also mentions beings with different levels of vibration that exist in other dimensions. From Latvia, we drove back to the north of Poland to end our tour at a site we love so much we visited on a number of occasions.
Grzybnica.
Very well.
Okay, so we're at a site called Grzybnica. It looks like Grzybnica in English, but apparently you say Grzybnica.
Grzybnica.
Okay, right. So we're at a site called Grzybnica, and it's like Odry, it's a really complete site. There's only 5 circles at this one, but there's some really interesting things they've written on these boards, and there's some really interesting things to have a look at as we do this walk around. It was used by the Goths. The Goths came here 70 to 80 years after Christ, and they've got sort of, you can see behind me here, the graves basically. So they came and they used this site and they've adapted it a little bit. So we're going to have a little walk through now the graves that all the Goths have left as we walk towards the first of the circles we're going to have a look at. So the first interesting thing is this tree here. We've been told by people that work here and some other locals as well that this is in a point where there's a lot of energy coming from the ground. And strangely enough, it's the same as all of these trees around, but the bark looks completely different in this place. So this one here, you can see there's this green moss growing on it, and it's kind of almost spongy, and it's got more like, it comes out like this thick, whereas this one's really flat and it doesn't really come out at all. So there's something definitely weird about this tree here. And it's right next to one of these really nice to look at graves. They're all quite visually stunning. This one really looks like the circle we saw in Wesiory that was supposed to have some healing properties. So this, I presume, would be the Goths adapting what was just a single standing stone or part of one of these circles, and they've just adapted it for their needs. So this is the first of the stone circles. There are 11 stones, although there are a couple of spaces where there would have been. You can see how it's kind of got this raised piece of land above it, so you have to go down into the circle. The rock is similar to the other stone circles we've seen. It's got crystals in there, there's the moss growing on it. There's some marks on some of these stones around the top. I mean, this is what some guy was telling us. I think he had past life recognition, and he was telling us that they used to put crystals on top of the stones, and that these marks that go around the stones were from ropes and things that were used to keep the crystal on top as they were doing energy work. I mean, there's markings on this one also. So it's an interesting idea. I've not heard that before at any of the other circles I visited around the world, but why not? There certainly seems to be a lot of energy at this site. There's all sorts of information in this book. They give out some really good information actually about the Bovis scales and the energies that are felt here, and they're really high. This is the second of the stone circles. It's the smallest of the 5. You've got 6 stones surrounding the central one. Out of all of the stone circles, 4 of them have a central stone, as in the last one we saw, and only 1 doesn't. This stone is quite interesting because it just looks like it's been cut. It really does. I mean, this surface here is extremely flat, and obviously you can see there. So I'm not sure if the lightning struck it or what happens, but from my eyes, it looks like it's been cut. This circle is also, because it's the smallest, it's supposed to be the smallest of 3 that are in the formation of Orion's belt. So like the Giza pyramids, and there's 2 larger ones off in the distance here, and then this is the smaller one. So the larger one has got all sorts of interesting stories as well. So here you can see there's another of these Goth graves, and there's a single standing stone on its own. This is the way we're walking towards the next of the Orion stone circles, and there's just 1 stone on its own. And over here there's another larger grave. There's a smaller one here. Now on this site there are a total of 102 graves, and there's 5 stone circles, as I said, and then there's 2 korhans, they call over here, which is basically tumulus, or grave mounds, burial mounds. So this is the next circle. It's the largest out of all of them, and it's the middle one out of all of these on this complex. It's 37 meters in diameter, same as the next circle that we're going to see. There's 20 stones remaining of 33, and this was supposed to have been a kind of a meeting place for people over the years and a place for important events. This stone in the center is kind of interesting. It's called the warrior stone because people on summer solstices and on important dates have actually come here and seen a warrior figure, like a guy with a turban on, and this is a point as well where apparently two telluric energies, well I'm not sure if it's telluric energy, we're getting all of our information from this leaflet and it says energy waves, but I'm kind of assuming that that's telluric energies and ley lines, but there's two that are supposed to cross here right where this stone is, and it's really high on the Bovas scale. It's like 90,000 in the center of the circle here, which is in this brochure again, it says that it's linked to Orion. It's kind of harnessing some of that energy up towards Orion and creating a kind of bridge, I guess. And also the energy is emitted out to all the stones that are on the outside of the circle, you know, almost like a bicycle wheel if you were looking from above. So we've had the small stone circle, we've had this one here, and then the third one in the Orion's belt is about 20-30 meters in this direction. Alrighty, so this is the last circle of the Orion's belt. It's the same size as the last one, it's 37.5 meters across. There's 17 stones remaining of 30. This one's a little bit different because in the center, instead of a warrior stone, we've actually got 4 stones, or maybe even 5 stones, which are kind of forming like a almost circle within a circle. We've seen this before in stone circles in the UK, where there's a kind of like, you know, the outer circle and then there's like a different section of it built out of stones. It's also really high on the Bovas scale. It's 80,000 in the center of this circle, and it's supposed to have like a really calming and relaxing energy. People have said it has a blue aura as well, so we've seen that in Stone Circle 5 in Odry. So there's one more circle, and that is just off in this direction here. This is the last of the stone circles. It's called the Master Shaman Circle. You can see that there is this kind of like hillock built around it. The ground comes up to a certain level, and then within this circular hillock, you've got the circle embedded in the earth. This is the same as the first circle that we came to, which is also embedded. It's not as complete, the hillock around it, but it is also lower down than the ground around the outside. It's also the same size. You know, you've got the 3 circles on the Orion's belt that are exactly at ground level, and then the 2 other ones are kind of embedded and have this hillock thing around the outside. This is really high up on the Bovas scale. It's like 100,000. So this is the point where there's most energy coming from the earth. The psychics have been here and seen right in the center. They say they've seen a 6 to 7 meter high crystal. And this crystal is supposed to have been activated quite recently. And I obviously don't see it, but it's supposed to be existing in the astral plane. So these stories are typical of what we're hearing in Poland, and it's also in this book as well. There's all this talk of all these energies. There's photos of orbs as well. So, and myself personally, I really feel there is energy in the air. When you touch some of the stones, you get tingling in your hands. So I feel like this is a pretty significant collection of stone circles they've got here in the woods in Poland. So we were just leaving, and on the way to the toilet from the car park, there is a single stone on its own, and this stone is full of crystals. The whole thing actually looks like one massive crystal, and funnily enough, this is probably the strongest point in the whole of this complex. So if you come to this site, come and check this stone out. As I said, it's just on the way to the toilet from the car park.
When the trip was over, we were so excited about what we'd seen, we released a trailer, which led to us being contacted about some recent ruins found in the north of Poland. They have shown us video and satellite imaging, and it seems the entire region is covered in long barrows and other megalithic structures. So much so, we might have to go back soon and do some more filming ourselves. We were very impressed by the stone circles and other structures we saw, and feeling the energies in the sacred sites was a life-changing experience. We feel the ruins situated in Poland are a valuable addition to the growing evidence that suggests our ancient ancestors were far more advanced than they are given credit for.
Okay,
Say it.
Grzybnica.
Not żółw.
I'm just gonna have to get it wrong.
No.
Grzybnica. I can't get it. Grzybnica.